The next movie on our list is The Last Starfighter, a little gem in the 80s. And I'm looking forward to talking about it with you guys. So Jude, take it away.
All right.
What is The Last Starfighter all about?
1984, The Last Starfighter. Rated PG with a runtime of 1 hour 41 minutes. This had a budget of $15 million. Alex, what do you think this brought into the box office?
38 million.
Thomas?
I'm going to go lower. I'm going to say like 25, if that.
28.
Yeah, if that.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Hometown video game hero Alex Rogan was just moping around the trailer park when a mysterious man rolls up and offers him some candy. When the mystery mobile turns into a spaceship, Alex ends up on the fast track of Alien Starfighter Boot Camp. This is why you shouldn't get in cars with strangers. He's been recruited into the onboarding Star League to fight in the war against Xur. Alex wanted to do something cool with his life, but he was thinking more along the lines of going to college. When the evil Xur attacks Rylos and the entire Star League gets blown up, it's up to Alex to defend the frontier against the takeover, for he is the last starfighter. With his beta unit back on Earth awkwardly pretending to be him, he heads back into the stars, guns blazing with his navigator Grig. And the two of them are all that stands in the way of Xur and the Kodan Armada, taking control of all the worlds in the stars. Discuss.
This movie doesn't make any sense and it's stupid.
Shut up. You're just jealous because we destroyed the wizard.
Because it's ruining my childhood.
I have probably an unearned amount of nostalgia for this movie.
Okay.
Because I've seen it before for sure, and I liked it.
At what age did you see it?
Young, really young.
That's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really young. I watched it and I was like, oh, that's freaking cool. Like I just remember it being fun. And it was just enjoyable. And it was oh, that would be cool if that was me. Like, what if I play video games and it's a freaking test? Like, I understand. Like, I'm not old enough to have enjoyed this when it was out and the era, like when you were a young kid and you see this movie in theaters. I wasn't there, but I did see it at the appropriate age when it later on. And I remember really enjoying it. Mm-hmm. And despite it not really holding up as far as like VFX and stuff like that, I think it's worthy of its kind of spot in the 80s culture. It's a lot of fun. And I really want to ask Matthew Kadish one question, because I know I am actually a fan of his books, Earthman Jack, and there's so many ties to this movie and your books. And I'm wondering, was this like the thing that sparked that flame to make you write your books?
Yeah, so this movie had probably the most influence in the creation of the Earthman Jack books that I wrote. Everything from like, the kid in the trailer park to being good at video games and that translating into like, flying a spaceship and stuff like that. Like I grew up on this movie. This movie is a very special movie to me. I loved it. I mean, it's every little boy's fantasy to like, be good at a video game and then get caught up in like this adventure up in space and stuff like that. And this movie, more than any other movie of the time, I think kind of embodied it. When this movie came out, there was, it was kind of like the Spielberg golden age. It was Spielberg and Lucas who kind of like had the fantasy science fiction market cornered, and everyone was doing knockoffs of like Star Wars and E.T. and things of that nature. And Nick Castle and Jonathan R. Butel, who directed and wrote this movie respectively, they were trying to do something that captured the wonder and fantasy of science fantasy. But at the same time, they were trying to do stuff that wouldn't get them compared to Spielberg or Lucas. And so like originally, this movie was set in the suburbs, but that was like Spielberg's thing was like the suburbs kid. And so they were like, well, what if we set it in a trailer park and made them like super poor? And then, like the whole, Star Wars type thing, it was very different from like, the evil empire fighting like, this rebellion. Like the Star Force was like the thing that protected the entire galaxy, and they were fighting against this outcome or this outside threat. And so like there was a lot of stuff in this movie that I grew up just like loving, and it became ingrained in my head. And when I started writing my own kind of like science fiction thing, this was kind of like one of the biggest influences on it.
Yeah, you can definitely tell, especially the first 10 or so chapters it feels like it's taken this and then just kind of like expounded upon it. And I'm not doing this because I'm your friend, but your freaking books a lot of fun. I had a ton of fun with this movie. It was, I don't know, man. It's kind of heartwarming, fun little adventure. I wish it had aged as well as something like Star Wars had. So, Jude, real quick, what's your general opening thoughts on this movie?
Oh, I love this movie. This is also like something that I feel very nostalgic about. And also Catherine Mary Stewart is in this, and I just love her in the 80s. She's in one of my all-time favorite movies, Night of the Comet. And like honestly, anything that she's in, I will watch, especially if it's from the 80s. And I think it's just such a fun concept. And I think every kid, especially in the 80s, and maybe today too, I don't know kids' brains now, even though I have one. But like when you were a kid growing up, like you wanted to be that special kid. You wanted something awesome to happen to you. And this movie allows it to happen, and you can put yourself in that position. And it's just fun.
Tom.
One of my favorite movies growing up, Last Starfighter, big time. I haven't seen it since I was a kid. And rewatching it, I mean, it's got problems. It does not hold. It doesn't hold up. The story doesn't make any sense.
The story doesn't make any sense?
Oh, it's stupid. When you realize that Zur is like comic relief and he's not actually the villain.
Oh, he's not intimidating at all.
He's not even the villain. He's just some clown that's on board with the Klingon warship. and they're like, this guy talking again?
Yeah, he's like a Star Trek hologram.
Like he had the code to get through the barrier, and that's the only reson he's there. So he's not even the real bad guy.
No,
he's like a joke.
Yeah.
There's what, like 12 people in this defense force, and there's like one ship with like 13 ships that are. That's it. We're gonna take over the whole universe now. A lot of it's dumb, but fun movie from my childhood. These guys said it best. It literally is what every kid wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to be really badass at a video game and be like, oh, you just got recruited into the Starfleet.
Sure.
Yeah.
We
For sure.
all want that.
So we all know the opening of the scene. We get Alex, who is the main character of this movie. He plays this video game. He's got the top score, and that sets off a trigger that says, hey, we've got somebody here
Oh
who...
my God. The reaction of everybody in the trailer park when
they were
opening this
so
game,
excited.
It's
not fair.
So sad
It was like
that this is the most exciting thing that's ever
Dude,
happened at them.
they're hugging and kissing and crying.
Because he got a high score in a video game.
Yeah, they're like giving babies to him. Like, this is raise my child. That scene is effing ridiculous.
It's so funny, though.
sad.
The old man smoking a pipe going, boy, you're going to waste your whole life. Wait a minute. He going to get a high score? Everybody get the fuck over here.
So look, this movie came out the year after War Games did.
Yes.
And we saw what the level of technology in War Games was.
Yeah.
So like in this situation where you actually have like a video game that has like 3D models in it, like at
the
the
wireframe
time,
models. Yeah.
At the time that was like revolutionary. And so like the fact that like there's like this one video game at this trailer park that only one person in the trailer park's actually like good at. It's kind of like when you used to go over to your friend's place and watch them play video games, and the guy who's the best at the video games would be the one playing it, and you'd be like cheering him on, and it was entertainment, It was fun.
Yeah, it's no different than going to a football game. You're not good at football, but the dude on the field is, and then you're cheering him on. But I do get it, because literally, like, people crowd around him, and they're all like cheering and hooping and hollering. Like, I could understand if it
shaking each other.
Yeah.
Like, they can't believe this is happening.
Like, if it was like, his younger brother, his girlfriend, maybe a couple of his buddies or something like that, I would buy it. No, it's literally the entire freaking trailer park.
Dog's excited. Just everyone can't believe this
They're
shit.
going to be talking about this for years.
It's so funny. It is very goofy and funny. But anyway, so his high score triggers the events that kind of set forth the rest of the movie, and it sends a message to Centauri. Is that how you say his name? Yeah. Centauri, who is like, he's the one who kind of placed that test there. And did we mention before that it was supposed to be in Las Vegas?
Earlier, yeah. It's supposed to be in Las Vegas.
I missed that bit of dialogue. When did he say that?
Early in the beginning, like, because they drop it. It's like, oh, I was supposed to go to Las Vegas. That's some podunk spot. And I'm like, well, Vegas was pretty podunk in 1984. So I'm not too sure what you mean.
They had mob.
Well, I figured they'll drop it off at Circus, and it'll work itself
It
out.
would still be there today.
Well, so the whole thing about Centauri.
Well, that's my idea for a sequel in this one. Is that they find an old one and plug it in, and then like they actually come to bring the kid back. It's like, oh shit, this kid broke the high score too.
Like The Last Starfighter meets Jumanji.
Why not? Because at the end it's
it sets up an open.
It sets up something. I don't know what.
Yes, but the whole thing with Centauri is basically he designed this video game in order to find people who would be good for like the Star League on Earth, and so he meant to distribute them in population centers where lots of people would be able to play them. So because he gets paid for every recruit he brings to the Starfleet, and basically this one video game accidentally got shipped to this trailer park somehow instead of going to Vegas. And he was like, it must have been fate because like, you're the best that we've ever found. And so like, it's kind of weird because Centauri is a bit of a headhunter for,
he don't play by the rules. He's not even supposed to be recruiting Earthlings.
Yeah. Was it just,
they're not in the Star League.
It really seemed like he kidnapped this kid from Earth and sold him into slavery. And he was like, all right, bro.
Peace.
And then when he's like,
go kill some aliens.
He's like, I don't want to go to war. And Centauri's like, oh, why? Are you a coward?
That dude is legit probably the biggest villain in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
he's more menacing than the freaking goofball freaking head case.
Where he takes his human face off or his human disguise. When I was a kid, that freaked me out so much.
Yeah, the first time I saw this movie, I was freaked the hell out by that.
And the beta unit. Yes.
I still have nightmares about that face.
Unit.
So okay.
Oh god.
Yeah, we got to set that up. So
eyeballs.
when they take Alex off the planet, they have to replace him with a body double, which is a robot that kind of mimics his looks and his personality and stuff, so that it doesn't like raise a bunch of hubbub.
They shake hands in the car
and get his DNA.
Yeah, it gets his DNA. And then
DNA all over me.
And then he gets out and pretends to be Alex, but like it takes like a night for him to like change into Alex. So he's just got the blanket over his head.
Yeah.
And they show him before he's like finished transforming, and it looks like the creepiest nightmare shit.
If I was his little brother and I saw that shit, I would freak out.
Oh, that would have ruined my life.
Like pulls the cover down and it's like this freaking oozing looking kind of slimy face with
like
bug eyes
pulsing.
and there's like LEDs in the brain. Super creepy.
So the funny thing about the beta unit is that when they were doing test screenings for the film, originally the beta unit wasn't in it all that much, but there was that scene where basically Alex comes home and the beta unit's in the bottom bunk and they have that exchange. And in the test screenings, people loved that scene so much that they were like, we got to put more of the beta unit in. And so they went back and they reshot a bunch of scenes just to have like the beta unit give some like comic relief to the movie.
No kidding.
So the scene where he takes his head off and he's like fixing his ear, the scene where
then he makes the head shake back and forth.
and the scene where like they go out camping and he's like, trying to sweet talk. Yeah. He's trying to sweet talk his girlfriend. But it was kind of funny because when we were watching it, Jude was like, why does Alex's hair look so weird? And it was because the actor had cut his hair in between like when the movie finished filming and doing the reshoots. And so like they had to put a wig on him.
This is like a Samurai Cop situation.
They Samurai Copped it, exactly. And so like
nice reference.
And so like whenever you see the beta unit scenes later on in the movie, Alex's hair looks weird because like it's a wig.
I was like, his hair looks really wiggy.
Which
in this
actually
scene.
like strangely fits the circumstance because
he's a robot. But at the same time, I was like, but why?
Because he's not very good at his job, Jude.
He was very beta.
Oh, he was
definitely an alpha unit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
not an alpha
he was
at
a
all.
beta cuck.
Like, what do you want me to do with that thing? He's a beta cuck.
Speaking of bad hair, the Rylans, which is like the Star League race.
Oh God,
they all look like old like grandmas and grandpas because of like the hair.
They're all
really
balding.
weird design.
They have like this weird ring.
The Homer Simpson.
The Homer Simpson, Captain Picard, but like to like an extreme. And then they have these bulging foreheads, like a freaking Ferengi or something. It was a very, very strange way of going about creating these characters.
Yeah, so like they designed the Kolan first, which are like the evil race, which is kind of like demonic, and they wanted something that was very like opposite that, and so like
let's make them look like grandpas.
Yeah, they tried to make them look like a cross between angels and cats.
What?
Oh dear God!
Where did you read that shit? Did you make that up?
This is from Robin Cobb, who did like the special effects.
You were sleeping.
Angels and cats.
The cat people.
I'm going to show you a picture of Zur, and I want you to tell me if you get angels or cats out of that.
Eventually the special effects supervisor was like, at a certain point, we were just locked into this design and we couldn't change it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the worst parts of this movie is like the Rylands just like look ridiculous.
Yeah.
I like the tentacle alien.
Oh, I'll give him a shit ton of credit for like when Alex shows up to the actual, I don't know, main event or whatever, when he goes to the recruitment.
The main event.
The main event. The recruitment ceremony, and he's walking in there and he's like passing by all these alien creatures. I'll give them credit for going out of their way to make like really weird looking aliens.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like the
A lot
easiest,
of diversity in that crew.
exactly, like the easiest way they could have gone is like old school Star Trek and just had a bunch of humans like painted different colors
So
and like
you really appreciate the diversity
of the aliens. Yes, I do. It's like
The diversity initiative. Like, look, they have men, women, other.
Yeah.
squid people. It's great.
well, Grig, the navigator alien,
He just looks like a giant penis.
No,
Well,
isn't it the same alien from Enemy Mine?
It looks
Yes,
very
it's the
similar.
same
100%. I thought the same thing.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's Louis Gossett Jr. as well. Like,
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
I'm gonna
sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
Look,
Google
but
that.
I'm just gonna believe that it is.
Yeah.
That's fine.
In my heart,
Yeah.
that is Louis Gossett Jr.
Yeah, that's the same alien from Enemy Mine.
No,
Same one.
it's
and he has a baby.
He's a baby.
it's an actor named Dan O'Hurley.
You're ruining this for us.
I'm sorry.
You're yucking my yum here,
yeah,
Kaden.
let me live my lies.
I know I'm not supposed, like, I probably shouldn't think this, but every time that dude was on screen, I just thought, like, oh my God, his head looks like a giant penis. Like, that's
What
all I
does
can
your
think
penis
of.
look like?
It's got the little
Yeah, what
freaking.
kind of penises do you look at?
Well, you
Is
see.
it yours all scabby?
Let me
and
show
kinda
you. No, I mean, like, he's got like the freaking forehead with the little ring around it, and it's shaped. It's just a weird shaped head. You guys not? Am I the only one who thinks this?
Do you have a weird shaped head? We're still talking about your penis? What are we talking about?
Are we
I
talking
mean,
about
I-
circumcised
Yeah,
or
we're talking about your
uncircumcised?
penis?
I must have seen
Yeah,
this
turn on
movie
that.
like 1,000 times growing
Oh,
up,
sure.
and never once.
Am
did
I
think
the
it
only
looked like a
person who
penis.
thinks that?
Your brain goes
You're
right to
telling me
dicks.
that dude doesn't look like a freaking.
You went right to dicks.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think it either.
I didn't think
thought
so.
Enemy Mine.
I thought you looked kind of like a turtle.
And Jude's mind naturally goes to dicks.
Seriously. It's weird that you thought
Of
it
all
and I
the
didn't.
people, I thought Jude would be on my side.
I'm
He's-
just not there with you, buddy.
He looks like a walking dickhead.
No, I'm not.
Okay,
getting it.
all right. I guess I'm alone on that hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the leader of the Star League,
Yeah.
Enduran.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of penises.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, we're moving.
The chat agrees with me. No, nobody thought it was a dick.
Damn it. Here I am alone on my hill.
I've seen a lot of
On a
dicks.
mountain of dicks. Alex is standing alone on a mountain of
You're gonna
dicks.
die in your mountain of dicks.
What better
Alone.
place to die? Yeah.
Alone on a mountain of dicks. God damn it. I'll suck a mountain of dicks for justice.
Hey, does anybody else think Centauri's car looks exactly like the Val Morphinized car from Team America?
No, yeah.
And the entire time, I'm expecting him to say, "Now suck my dick." When he's in there, he's like, "Now suck my dick."
It
What?
was actually modeled after the DeLorean.
Yeah.
Of
I know.
course it
It's
was.
a 4-door DeLorean. I
It's
know.
the 80s. Everything's modeled off to the freaking DeLorean.
I mean, it's a fun movie, man.
Oh, it's a great.
It's
movie.
got like the privacy screen in it too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Very
this
fancy.
came
Don't-
out right before Ender's Game as well, and I
Don't-
mean the whole video game concept of like a young man like fighting a galactic war. I mean, I think this movie inspired more than we think. You know, if you really think about it. I mean,
Probably.
yeah.
The leader of the Star League, Enduran, doesn't he remind you of the guy at the end of Star Wars that gives like the briefing on the Death Star?
Sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I got
sure.
those vibes.
Yeah, sure. Why
With
not?
the, he's up there, and the plans provided by Princess Leia. Yeah, 100%. I got you.
Yeah, I love this movie. Like you're right, it doesn't really hold up over time. The storyline is kind of all over the place, but at the same time, like there's just something about it. Like there's this X factor to this movie that just makes it so like fun to watch, even though you know that like it's not a great movie.
It makes you want to be part of it.
Yeah. Like there are bits and pieces to this movie that are just like timeless in a way, and they just get ingrained in your brain, and you're just like, oh, that's nice. I like watching that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It definitely has a good heart. It has a good message. It has a good heart. It has a good fantasy element to it.
Even the beta unit, like he's trying his best.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, the
he's
whole
like- funny. Yeah,
she's
it's
like,
funny.
geez, Alex, laugh. And he laughs like a fucking weirdo.
oh like a freaking like the Joker, like a Batman villain.
And I love how he keeps like screwing up his relationship with Maggie.
Oh,
'cause
God.
He just doesn't understand sex or anything like that.
That bit where they're camping and he's like listening in on somebody
The other
else
couple's
who is a
conversation, and they're
complete
freaks.
They're weirdos.
Yeah. And,
Oh, yeah.
And he's like mimicking what this guy's saying to like make the.
And that guy's making love with with his cowboy hat on too, by the way.
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah. But the guy's girl is mad at him, so he's like trying to whisper sweet nothings to her, and the beta unit's like regurgitating this to try to get Maggie to like stop being mad at him.
Right.
And at a certain point, the cowboy hat guy is like, "Babe, none of the other girls meant anything to me. You're the only one."
And he says the same thing to his girlfriend, and she's like, "What other girls?"
She decks him.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, do you want me to talk dirty to you now? Because that's what the girl said when he was like, nobody else meant anything to me. It's always you." And she's like, "Shut up and talk dirty to me now."
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because so like a big influence on this film was The Wizard of Oz. They kind of used the Wizard of Oz framing devices to base the main plot around. And you know, you got like the floating head, which was like, you know, the Oz the Great and Powerful, and you know, stuff along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Beta Unit was meant to be like the Tin Man or Scarecrow or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But one of the characters I want to point out in this movie is the little brother Lewis.
What a perv.
And so like he's got his collection of Playboys, which, you know, growing up in the 80s, like that's what you had when you were like his age.
You know, when I first saw this, I thought it was Alex's Playboys, but now I don't think so. I think they were Lewis's.
No, they're just
Lewis's.
his. Yeah.
That's what he says is, I'm going to tell your mom about your Playboy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought that he got them from Alex.
Remember, he was specifically looking for like the June
He was
centerfold.
like, "Where the hell's June?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Why is that your voice?"
It was super weird.
Well, it's funny because Alex has Maggie, and Maggie's hairstyles throughout the movie are kind of inspired by Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay, with the braids.
But it's also kind of weird because like her original hairstyle when we first meet Maggie is the exact same hairstyle as Alex's mom. It's kind of
the 80s.
That was popular back then.
Yeah.
But Lewis, when we first meet him, so he's got like this space helmet on, and he's just going around casually like ganking people with his like little dart gun. He's just like walking around, just like shooting like left and right. And he's like a perfect marksman too.
Listen, it's a trailer park. There's not a lot to do.
Right. Well, we've established that because
Yeah.
the high score was like a college football game.
Yeah.
So
So we should also mention. So this is Will Wheaton's first movie.
how so? 'Cause
he's in it.
I did not see. Will
I don't know
Wheaton.
where he is.
Where
I think
is he
they
at?
cut him out.
Yeah. So basically, there were some scenes where Will Wheaton was one of Lewis's friends, and you know he lived in the trailer park, and you can kind of see him in the background in certain scenes. But originally, he had some dialogue, and they just cut the character out of the movie. And
Yeah.
so like unless you know where to look to find him, like you're not going to see him in
Because he's
this
still
Yeah.
credited with a name.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't catch it until I was
Yeah.
watching the end credits, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, "Wait a minute, Will Wheaton's in this?" In case you didn't even believe me, we had to rewind the credits.
Yeah. For as many times as I've seen this movie, I never noticed.
I never noticed that
Never
either.
noticed.
Do you guys remember what scene he was in?
So I think there are two scenes, and it's always like at the beginning when they're going through like the trailer park, you can kind of see him in the background somewhere, and then at the end when Alex is like going up in the spaceship, he's in the crowd there. You have to really look for him though.
Okay. I'll see if I can pull that up. Gosh, what else want to say? Okay, so let's talk about the graphics because that's really what took me.
Well, yeah,
I mean, it was
it was 1984.
I understand that, but here's the
You
thing:
got to think about what was close. I mean, Tron was the closest thing.
Tron would be the closest thing I can
Yeah.
see to this.
when did
but
Tron come out?
82.
I don't remember.
So this is actually the first movie to use computer generated
Yeah, this is the first CGI.
scenes in a feature film.
Not Tron. I thought Tron had that title.
I'm looking it up right now.
I don't think Tron had CGI. It just looked like CGI.
Tron was 82.
Oh, because they use like film trickery, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is the first. You got to think like this was Atari time,
Yeah.
and this is what you get. This
See,
is actually very. I mean, if you're talking about, I mean, it does not age well.
No, it doesn't.
It's going to take until the late 90s before you see a console that can even stand up to this.
Yeah.
But the thing about
I mean,
these
really.
special effects, it's kind of funny because they started doing the special effects like as the movie started shooting, and it would take so long to render out like a believable like 35 millimeter
Oh yeah, no doubt.
computer image that they almost didn't have them all done by the time the movie was set to be released because like the rendering time was just like days for like every single like,
Oh, I can
like,
believe
scene
it.
that had it
Well,
in there.
it's like when they made Jurassic Park. I mean, you guys seen the movies that made us, right? And they talk about how
long it
the
took them to do
effort
that,
it took
yeah.
them to make it even look. I mean, it was down to the wire. They didn't invent that shit
But
until
they-
the day before they had.
But
to
here's the
premiere
thing,
it.
though: like Jurassic Park, like still holds up 20 some odd
Still.
years
Oh,
later,
yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah,
This
very much.
movie,
No.
like this is one of those times where I look at this movie and I go, so this is after Star Wars.
Yeah,
like
I said the same thing. I said, when did Empire come out? Because
if they had,
but Star Wars was still using models and
that's what I'm saying.
compositing.
But it looked 1,000 times.
Yeah,
better.
if you look at the comparison of the two, you're like, okay, here's Star Wars, which is a massively popular franchise by this point, and you go, we can either do that, which works, or we can try the super experimental shit that might not work and probably is going to look like shit in 5 years.
So keep in mind that like the whole filmmakers' mentality on this was that they wanted to be different from Lucas and Spielberg and not have those comparisons be put on there. And so they didn't want to go with ILM. They wanted to do something that was new and different, and going full CGI, full computer generated was like, they're like, you're crazy. And they're like, yeah, we're crazy, but we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, and this technology was so new at the time, too, that
So
nobody thought to themselves, oh, this is going to look dated in 5 years. That was preposterous.
Well, the Lawnmower Man looks garbage.
Right.
And that came out 10 years after this. This is better than Lawnmower Man.
I've never even heard of that movie.
Have you never seen
terrible.
Lawnmower Man?
Pierce
No.
Brosnan.
It's
What?
like
Jeff Fahey?
It's like Star Fox graphics.
Oh, it's real bad.
It's real bad, and it came out 10 years after this. So I mean, we really can't shit on it too much. The problem is, 40 years later, it does not hold up.
I've never heard of it. That sounds horrifying.
What?
But besides that, like really besides the
bad
in
CGI.
my perspective, the dated CGI and the bad, like there's not a lot wrong with this movie. You've kind of pointed out like, oh, we're going to take over the universe with like 2 ships or whatever. That's kind of a little goofy. But there's this one thing that they introduced in this movie that I was kind of like, I didn't remember that was in this movie. And they're like, oh, it's the Death Blossom. And they're like, oh, we're going to pull out the Death Blossom. Don't touch that button. It has catastrophic freaking consequences if you touch the Death Blossom.
Was it the Omega 13 or
yes,
something?
the Omega 13 device.
It's Omega 13.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, I'm going, I don't remember the Death Blossom. This is fascinating. I'm like, this was at that point in the movie where I was like, I don't remember the rest of this movie. This is going to be fun. And like, they do their little freaking hideaway thing. They turn off their reactors and they hide from the Armada and they get behind it. They do like a little Star Fox fighter thing, which is fun. And then they're like, we're outnumbered. We don't know what else. God damn it, the freaking beta unit. That is so scary. I'm sorry. The beta unit just popped up on the
So
screen.
freaky.
And we all just kind of jumped out of our skin a little bit.
I was a child when I saw that.
I know, that's so freaky, dude.
Like I got like palpitations waiting for it because I knew it was coming. I'm like the most god awful, unholy image is about to flash in front of my face. There it is.
Beta unit just derailed my whole conversation.
Yeah,
Talk
but
about looking like a penis. That thing's veiny.
It's
getting back to the Death Blossom though, so like one of the interesting things about this movie is that, you know, up until this point, so like you had Star Wars kind of like setting the standard for like space combat, like space dogfights, and in Star Wars there's always a very definitive up and down. And with this movie, they were like, we want to present space as like a 3-dimensional space, like place. And the Death Blossom thing is basically where like the ship spins around like in every direction and attacks from like every direction.
That was the dumbest moment in the movie for me when they're like,
Really? Like I always thought that was the coolest moment.
no,
it is the coolest moment.
No, it's so stupid.
Oh,
He's like,
that's because you watched this as an adult.
Yeah,
for the
now
first
it
time.
Probably.
Yeah, now it looks stupid.
but no, not just looks. I mean, just the idea of it. Like, like they keep talking this thing up like it's this some catastrophe, like the Omega 13 device. We don't know what it's going to do, but it's going to do some massive damage.
What is
and he
it- what-
pushes it, and all it does is it just spins his spaceships in circles and shoots randomly. And I'm like, you
Listen,
could.
These same rides at carnivals are scary as shit, and you cannot tell me not.
You didn't like the gyroscope at the carnival, did you, Jude?
Oh, the gyroscope's fine.
You're not getting on those rides. They're scary.
Well, the whole thing about the Death Blossom, and one of the reasons why like the Star League spaceships are so advanced, is the fact that like one starship within like a certain radius could take out like literally like any ship in that radius just on its own. And that's what the Death Blossom was, and that was kind of like their you know their last ditch like super weapon type thing for every Starfleet or Star Force starship.
Yeah, no, I get what they were trying
It takes
to.
out the carrier too.
No, they do that separately.
No. It's damaged in that same moment.
But is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to me, like when I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, so they spin around in circles and they shoot individual lasers just at random.
No, they were all in the sphere of targeting. You didn't watch this movie,
I
did
know
you?
the sphere of targeting.
You watched the trailer
but
and
it's
you're
just-
trying to pass it off.
It's just no. It's just shooting random laser. Like if
no,
it was
the
like,
lasers were locked on
There's
to
a
everything.
computer.
and-
Yeah.
why don't you just do that all the time?
They had to wait till they were in the sphere.
Yeah, and also like it drains
short
all
range.
the power from
Yes.
the starship.
Right.
That's
Sure.
a terrible weapon.
But let's not forget one. Wait, what is the ship called? They call it like a sun fighter or something.
Star Car?
Actually has a really cool name. What they call
It's
it?
not just Starfighter. No,
No,
you're right. It does have a weird name.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it is. Though.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Something though.
Star League Mobile.
No, it was like a sun fighter or something. It was kind of a cool name. Like
Starfighter.
like you never heard that term before. At least I didn't know. Oh,
I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
can't tell you what it is though. But
but one of those takes on the entire fleet that was supposed to be taking over the whole universe.
yeah, there's like 13
And
warships or
They
whatever.
fired 3 meteors.
Yeah.
And
And I love the scene where like the Colon like main ship is getting ready to
the
explode.
Conan Armada
Yeah,
flagship.
Yeah, and
Gunstar.
and
Gunstar. That's what it's called.
Gunstar, yeah.
Great name.
And the navigator turns to like the captain. He's like, "What do we do now, sir?" And like the guy's monocle comes over his eye, and he's like, "We die."
We die. What a freaking ridiculous.
That thing they used like 3 times, and it was like, go. No clapping.
That was the go moment, right?
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
like every time something big happens,
Oh,
the bad
yeah.
guy says something, he goes, shkink, and his
Yeah.
little thing folds down and he says something epic and then it changes scenes. It was goofy. It was probably they're like, oh, that's a really cool mechanic. We got to use that for the
They were very excited about it.
Yeah, they were very, very excited.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because like the original screenwriter for this movie has been trying to get like a sequel going for like a number of years,
Mm.
Oh, yeah,
like,
I've heard about
like
this,
decades. And you know, there's been a lot of speculation over like what the sequel would be. So like some people say it would be like Maggie and Alex's kid who kind of grew up on Rylan, and he's kind of returning to Earth to try to save it. Then there's the idea that Lewis eventually grows up and finds like the video game thing and like becomes like the next Starfighter, and then there's the idea that like you could turn this into like an original series just called Starfighter, and it's all about like this like frontier war with like the Colan and stuff like that. So I'm kind of disappointed that there was never like a franchise made out of this movie because it seems like
It's
like,
ripe for it.
it's ripe for it. Exactly.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like all my criticisms of this movie, it's because of its age and when it was made. It's not about the story itself. I think this, of all the movies out there that need or could use a good, fresh soft reboot, I would say it'd be better off to like do a soft reboot where you keep the original as it is and you just build off of that. You don't replace the original.
So a sequel, not a.
Yeah, more like a sequel, but I wouldn't. You could
do it.
You could do some stuff with it.
Yeah, you could Lost World it.
The
basically.
Tron,
Yeah.
I mean, the Tron sequel. I don't think people liked it very much. but
Legacy?
I liked it a lot.
I liked it a lot.
and I think you could do very much something similar. Where
Yeah.
the original Tron is garbage. It is,
it's a tough chew.
it's a tough one. It's hard to watch.
You could do a spin-off series about the Centauris of the universe going out and
why
kidnapping
not?
people and
or
signing
just
them
a,
up for the
just a
Starfighter League.
different arcade game somewhere else. Like you said, you find it all dusted off in an old casino somewhere in Vegas. You plug it back in, and all of a sudden, boom, here you go.
Well, Dave had a good idea. I was talking to my roommate Dave, and we were watching this, and he was like, what if the sequel it was more like an MMO, and every kid was just logging on, and you were controlling a drone in space. You just didn't know.
Oh, that's like Ender Game.
Kind of like Ender's Game.
Yeah.
Kind of blending them together.
Mhm.
And I thought it was a fun idea. I mean, there's a lot of really fun ways you can make a sequel to this. And it's something about the director or the writer won't allow it or something. So they're waiting until he dies. So we might get a little while to wait.
Go like a Ready Player One with it.
Yeah, very Ready Player One would be a cool angle to take on
Yeah.
this.
I always have a problem with those because the main character seems so removed from the action that's actually happening that you kind of lose that. Like in this one, Alex goes to space, and you're along with him.
And he has like a normal reaction where he's like, I don't want to go to war.
Yeah.
And then when he finds out that like his family isn't safe on Earth, when he returns to the trailer park because they're sending bounty hunters after him, he's like, okay, I have to go and fight. And by that point, the Star League has been wiped out. And so like he's literally the last Starfighter, and he's the last hope that Earth and any of his family have to survive the Colon invasion. And so like, structurally, like this movie is actually like quite sound.
Yeah, I completely agree.
It's the hero's journey.
Mhm.
I mean, it fits in there almost exactly. I mean, there's literally every character of the the hero's journey is here.
But I mean, if I was in his situation, I'd be like, I don't want to do this either.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to almost die,
Yeah.
And like the boot camp for that is just like, here's your uniform. Now here's your star gun ship.
Mhm.
Hey, he already trained.
You know what I wouldn't
He had a high
mind.
score.
I'll tell you what I wouldn't mind seeing is if they do come up with some kind of a sequel somewhere, if along with the sequel they release like a special edition of this original where they go back and they update the graphics.
They're gonna Star Wars it.
Yeah,
I
they do a special edition.
Now that would be something.
And I'm not talking about like changing any aspects of the actual movie.
Just take the CGI,
Just
update it.
The CGI when they're in space and they're in the starfighter,
Yeah.
just bump that up to 2022.
Can we also just mention the score really quick? Like I had forgotten like how good the score for this movie is.
When the theme song started playing, I knew every word in my head. And, not the words, but I knew the melody, and I was like, "Oh, what's that one song? Oh shit, it's the last Starfighter song."
Do you know who made it? Is it have any legacy to it?
I don't recall,
Okay.
but like it's such a
That song was burned into my head.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a comforting song because like I hear it and I'm like, where have I heard this song before? And I'm like, well, from the last Starfighter. But like it's one of those things where it feels like Star Trek and like all these other like science fiction movies were inspired by it. So like it feels very familiar, and you know, whenever they use it throughout the movie, you're just like, yeah, I like that song.
You get Galaxy Quest vibes all the way through this
Yes!
movie. All the way,
Yeah.
all the
Oh,
way
yeah.
through it.
Oh,
All the
yeah.
way through it.
Yeah, it's a little bit self-aware enough to be like, I don't know where
Fucking
I was
Will
going.
Wheaton.
Sometimes Will Wheaton. Sometimes I start sentences and I don't know where they're going. Ton of fun. Let's do final thoughts, Tom.
It is a gem from my childhood. I mean, honestly, this was one of those movies as a kid that I've seen like 1,000 times. Like this one, The Wizard is another one I've seen like 1,000 times.
What would you
Great.
rate it?
What would you rate it? Give it a rating.
You know, it's a great movie. I mean, it's if you watch it now, I can beat this movie up endlessly. I mean, it's not well written. It's not well acted. The CGI does not hold up. The story doesn't really even add up. The whole thing's a mess. But you know what? It's a kids movie. It's fun. It's from my childhood. Every time I've spent over 100 hours playing a video game, I'm like, you know what? Someone should recruit me to do this shit because I'm going to save the goddamn universe any second now. But it's fun. I mean, it doesn't hold up at all. It's a mess, but it's fun. I would love to see it remade. I would love to see a sequel. I would love anything to come out of this movie. I would love a good video game to come out of this movie. Just anything, because it harkens back to just my child. I love the original Masters of the Universe movie. It's not my fault. I loved He-Man. That shit came out good enough for me. You know what I mean? And this is along those same lines. This is good enough for me. It was really fun. As a kid, I loved it. I have really fond memories. Kadish ain't wrong. The theme song to this movie, when I heard it, I just knew the song because I've seen this movie so many times. It's really fun. It's terrifying for no good reason, like twice. It's funny for no good reason.
The scene right here just reminded me of the Staff of Power that has
This is how you know he's a joke.
absolutely no meaning whatsoever. It's just a sharp, shiny thing that he holds.
And these guys hate him. They're like,
Oh yeah, they hate him.
they hate him.
And that little eye patch thing does nothing.
It's awesome.
It just flips on and he just says something important.
I think that was from Nintendo also. I think it was the blaster helmet. It was like the same
they have
thing.
one of those?
You don't remember the helmet you could wear?
Kind of, vaguely, yeah.
Super Nintendo had one.
That's
This
interesting.
is definitely
Did you-
before that.
Did you give it a rating?
I can't.
Oh, yes, you can.
Come on.
It's the rules, man. Just
I
make it
know.
up.
This movie's not good. It's a 3.
You gave Wizard like a 10 out of
Wizard's
5.
really good. This has nothing in it. Nobody's career is in this movie. Nobody goes on to do anything except the Comic Girl, and no one saw that movie either, Jude. I saw it, but I've seen everything. I've seen Samurai Cop. Not everybody's seen that. It's a 3. If we're talking about pure nostalgia, it's a 5. You know what I mean? It is one of those movies from my childhood. Look, the G.I. Joe movie probably sucks, and I liked that a lot too when I was a kid. It doesn't mean it's good. This is one of those. This movie's terrible, but it's so awesome, and so much of my childhood is wrapped up in it. It's really hard for me to say it's terrible.
Okay.
It's great because it takes me back to being a kid. It really does, and just loving it because it is a kids movie, and it's fun. Have your kids watch it. Watch it with them. They'd love it. Don't read too deep into it.
Okay, Jude. Final thoughts, give it a rating.
Yeah. So based on only nostalgia, this would be 5 stars.
Yeah.
However, the CGI does not hold up. But it's so much fun. And it's just like quintessential like 80s movie. And this is like one of those movies that I think of about like when you think of 80s movies. I never realized until watching it for this show how bad the aliens looked. It just never even occurred to me. It was just The Last Starfighter.
Yeah.
And I love this movie. I can watch this again. This is 4 stars. Four gun stars for me.
Holy shit. Okay, cool. Kadish?
So this was a very important movie to me growing up. It's a big part of my childhood. It's influenced, you know, my main book series and all this other stuff. I love this movie. I could watch this movie 1,000 times and never get tired of it, despite its many flaws, like Tom pointed out. But, you know, I'm going to have to go with like just my emotional rating for this and give it like a 5-star, because like it's just such a wonderful movie to me personally that I can't give it anything less than a 5. So
Holy crap.
Your childhood just got you by the balls, doesn't it?
This is not.
You're not wrong. It's really hard to say that it's not a good movie. It's really hard to say it.
This movie really formed my kind of like,
oh yeah,
my concept of what it means to have like a science fiction movie. You know, like you know, taking like a normal underdog kid and thrusting him into this intergalactic adventure and stuff like that. Like this is a very like kind of important movie to a lot of people. And, you know, just to me, like growing up on it, watching it as many times as I have, yeah, it's got flaws, but overall, like it's basically the template for what I think makes like a really good science fiction adventure. So
I'm fairly immune to the 80s nostalgia bit that because it's not part of my childhood. I mean, I watched it when I was a kid and I remember liking it, but watching it now, like you said, the flaws are there. It's dated. It doesn't hold up. The story's kind of goofy. I think the first half is really good. I really enjoy the first half. When they actually get out there and get into battle, and it just kind of falls off the rails a little bit. It's a great movie. I would love to see another version of this out there with a reboot, with either a reboot or a sequel, or it's literally anything, because I think it's perfect for it. This is the perfect movie to recreate.
It's got everything you need.
Polish it up.
Everything you need to.
Yeah. Polish it up a little bit, give it a modern spin, and get a good writer and a good director and some really good visual effects and put it back out there. It would freaking do gangbusters.
DeLorean that turns into a spaceship.
Hell yeah.
Can you imagine the Christopher Nolan version of this?
Oh, gritty and realistic. Everything. And then they have like,
yeah. You want to they take the original theme song and stretch it out to 7 hours, and it just plays in the background the whole time.
You know what? I even like the trailer park in this, because it's like not every time you see a trailer park in a movie, it's always like some dirty, trashy, like meth head place.
Yeah.
But this is just like a hippie trailer park that they all just are like a community.
No, they're just people that live in trailers.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's not meant as like a
yeah, they have sweet old granny. It's like an extended family.
Oh, dude, when
area.
she shows up at the end with a freaking shotgun ready to blow some people's heads
Granny's
off,
got a shotgun. Yeah.
Go Granny.
Hey, they said roll out. Granny knew what that meant.
Yeah, right. And the old lady neighbor is named Elvira.
Yeah. Granny understood the assignment.
There's so much to love about this movie. I just wish it had aged a little bit better. I'm going to say it's probably a solid 2.5-star movie. If I'm not talking about nostalgia.
I know you have to remove the nostalgia.
Pluck the nostalgia out of it. It's a 2.5-star movie.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's good. It's got good heart, but it hasn't aged well, and it kind of falls apart at the end. I would highly suggest going and checking it out.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to. I really hope that somebody makes something new out of this at some point in time. Like take this, either build off of it, or just give it a solid, really respectful, good new treatment.
Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be amazing.
Ugh.
I'd be over the head over heels.
Because the movie's, it is, for what it is, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It just isn't good. That's all. But it's got everything. Like, Kadish ain't wrong. It is the archetypal story of the kid from nowhere who went on to save the world. And we all like that story. Everyone likes that story. Star Wars was built on that story. There's books on that story. And here it is. It's very right in front of your face.
Yep.
It is fun. It's a good adventure. It just doesn't hold up.
Okay. All right, guys, that's it for our review of The Last Starfighter. Thanks for joining us. Real quick, before we get out of here, Jude, where can they find you on the socials?
You can find me at I am Jude Juju on Instagram and on TikTok. All
right, cool. And Matthew Kadish, where can they find you at, bud?
Can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter. KadishBooks.com takes you to my Amazon page. And don't forget to go to saltynerd.com/rate, RATE. That'll take you to Apple Podcasts, where you can leave us a 5-star rating, because we're trying to get 200 of those suckers in order to get accredited by Rotten Tomatoes as actual movie reviewers. We need 200 5-star ratings. So if you want to support the show, go and do that, and it would really help us out.
All right. And Big T, where can they find you at, bud?
If you really want to reach out, I'm on Instagram, Big T2681. I'm not too active on there, but if you send me a message, I'll say hey.
Okay, cool. And guys, if you want to head over to saltynerddiscord.com, join our community. It's a great place to be. And don't forget, we have a limited time t-shirt available right now. It says Global Dynamics, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Head over to saltynerdstore.com and pick that up before it goes away. It's part of our Eureka month we're doing for March. It'll be available for a little while, but then it's going to go away forever. So grab it while you can. And as always, thank you guys so much for joining us every single week. We will catch you next week and on the S&P Weekly, which I believe we're talking about
Mad Max movie.
Oh, it's Mad Max week, guys. We're talking Thunderdome.
Gotta love Mad Max.
Catch us next week, guys. We'll see you there. Stay salty, my friends.